Great. Oh, I'm so excited to be here today. I'm chatting with Leanne Vogel, host of the popular The Keto Diet podcast and author of the international best-selling book, The Keto Diet, which I have and so many of my clients have, and they love it. Leanne has spent over a decade learning and sharing her nutrition knowledge with others, and in 2014, it was her eureka moment when she found the ketogenic diet. And I know you've all heard about the ketogenic diet, so we're going to chat about it today. This diet transformed her life and ended her 8-year struggle with her missed period, helped her with hypothyroidism, adrenal and hormone issues. And from then on, she vowed to help others find health and success with the powerful, customized keto approach to diet. So Leanne, welcome.
Oh, Shirley, thanks so much for having me. It's been so long. I mean, we've known each other for years, so it's nice to see a familiar face.
I know. It's so funny. We've known each other for years, and then we finally met in Ottawa when you did your book launch, which was so great because we've always seen each other this way, but we were actually able to hug and kiss. And say,
oh, that was the best. It feels like ages ago that we did that.
I know. So I know you're on a tight schedule, so let's quickly talk. How can a keto diet support women's hormones? We're talking about women today, right? So let's chat about women's hormones. I mean, I guess first, let's start with what are some of the signs of hormone imbalances? You know, I think we're all getting to that age and we're wondering, are things started? So tell us, what are some signs of hormone imbalance?
Yeah, so I think like common signs are like low sex drive, missing periods, expanded periods, short periods, spotting during our period or spotting during our cycle rather. But like the silent ones where we know there's a symptom, but we don't think it's connected to our hormones, are things like problems building muscle, aging faster than our friends. So if you have a girlfriend who's 40 years old who looks amazing and Botox is not part of her monthly routine, and you're aging a lot quicker, that can be a sign of DHEA being too low in your body. Weight stalls, depression, anxiety, imbalanced skin, whether it be like wrinkles or like loose skin or acne, rosacea, anything like that. Weight gain, insulin resistance can be one. Bone health, if you go for a bone density scan and the doctor is concerned because your bone density is too low, that can be because of your hormones. Imbalanced moods. There's also a slow metabolism. So if you're just never hungry, never interested in food, or the opposite, like always hungry, can't get enough of it, even when you're eating, you're still hungry. Imbalanced digestive function, foggy thinking. These are all the symptoms of a hormone imbalance that when you go to the doctor, they'll kind of be like, oh, well, you know, that's just aging, or take this antidepressant or anti-anxiety pill, when in reality, there's probably something going on with your hormones. Now, how keto, a low carb, high fat eating style, helps your hormones, it's pretty awesome because you don't need to do much in order for it to start helping your hormones, because the cool thing about keto is that it's an endocrine based diet. So unlike the calories in, calories out model that many of us use when we're glucose fueled individuals, when we're using carbohydrates as energy, the same doesn't really work for keto, because in a high fat, low carb situation, we require hormones to be balanced in order to burn fat properly. So as we're eating keto, we're balancing out our hormones because those hormones are needed to follow a ketogenic diet to burn fat properly. So just by eating that fat, you're encouraging your body to burn fat and to balance out your hormones. But there are a bunch of different like adjustments that you can make to customize it for you, your body, and your situation. But in the case of keto, specifically, when we start eating more fat and more high quality fat with sources of like grass-fed butter, coconut oil, avocado oil, olive oil, grass-fed, grass-finished beef that has fat on it, that when you cook it, especially in Canada, we have like the best meat in Canada, but like when you cook it, it's like yellow fat. Yummy. And there's so many nutrients in there. And so when we do that, we're also balancing our cholesterol, we're lowering our triglycerides. And when we're in that state, cholesterol is a precursor for every single hormone in your body. Think of it like a cascade where cholesterol is at the tippy top of the umbrella and all of the hormones are being cascaded through there. And then we have insulin regulation, which is also really important for our hormones, for those struggling specifically with PCOS or insulin resistance. By eating a ketogenic diet, we're no longer dealing with the blood sugar highs and lows and highs and lows again, that our body's able to really heal ourselves from all the impacts of blood sugar highs and lows, which mainly impact one of our hormones, cortisol. And cortisol, when it's out partying in the body and being required because our insulin is high, we cannot burn fat. We cannot be fat burners. We can't deal with that. And the last piece to how keto helps our hormones is through our thyroid. So our body is actually able to work more efficiently in ketosis, which means it doesn't need as much T3, and this is a good thing. And when we reduce our need for the T3 hormone, then we reduce our sex hormone binding globulin. And think of sex hormone binding globulin like all these like little Velcro pieces in our body that kind of soak up the hormones and don't let them activate. So we want to lower our sex hormone binding globulin so that our hormones are able to do what they need to do in the body. And so those are just some of the ways that the ketogenic diet, when practiced properly and balanced for your body, can lead to.
Okay. And I think that's the important thing, right? Because before this, we were chatting and I have a client and I see clients that have been in motor vehicle accidents. And so, she concussion, brain injury, and we're doing keto. That's what I'm doing with her. And she's seeing such results. But I think for me as a nutritionist, and I know a fair amount, not nearly as much as you, but you want to make sure that you're doing that keto diet properly, because it's not just about having bacon all day and guzzling coconut milk.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely went through that phase because it was like, freedom, I'm going to eat all the
yummy, bacon, everything.
Exactly. But, somebody with a brain injury is going to have a different keto than a woman with PCOS that's trying to get pregnant. So for the individual with brain injury, if they're still struggling with their brain function, they're probably going to eat a lot more fat and a lot more protein than somebody who's dealing with PCOS, who's probably going to eat more whole food base of like kale and broccoli. And so it really depends on where you're coming from and what your goals are. But I think the most dangerous thing about keto, and it's gaining popularity. I mean, 5 years ago when I would say, yeah, I don't eat that, I'm on a ketogenic diet, people will be like, a keto what? What is that?
Keto what?
And now it's like, oh yeah, keto, I have this book and blah, blah, blah. And I read this article. So it's become a lot easier, but by making it easier and making it more popular, there's the misconception that it's 20 grams of carbs forever. Okay. And it doesn't matter on the food quality, just eat bacon and coconut milk and all the things. And it's sad because when I followed that way of eating for the first 6 months of keto, I looked great. I lost a lot of weight. I had 6-pack abs for the first time in my life. Everyone commented on how amazing I looked, but my hair was falling out. I wasn't sleeping. And I was binging like crazy. I was obsessed with food. I was counting every macro and calorie, and I was a crazy person. Yeah. And so I think it's really important for women in a certain space, if they're dealing with hormone imbalance, that they need to understand that there's a lot more different ways that they can practice keto, and not put yourself to, I'm just going to follow this one program that says, follow this step 1, 2, 3, you're good to go. And that's just not the way that we can practice anything. Like, think of anything that you do. There's never like a clear cut way to do anything. There are so many different ways to do things. So
and we're all individuals, right?
Yeah.
We're all different. We're all human beings, but we're all made up differently. And so, as you say, like I have a nutritionist friend and she works with cancer patients and keto, and people that have epilepsy and keto, and you're doing hormones and keto. So let's get back to that, because I want to ask you a question. So I deal with adrenal fatigue, and I know you've talked about how adrenal fatigue, or how keto helps our adrenals.
Yeah. Okay.
To me, you would think it would be stressful on the adrenals, but it's not.
Yeah, it can be stressful on the adrenals if you're not eating enough and you're forcing yourself to fast.
Okay.
That's when it would be stressful on the adrenals. I did that for the first 6 months. I fasted every day. It didn't matter if I was hungry or not. I was fasting 18 hours a day, no problem. And I was hungry for a lot of those days. And what happens is when you don't eat, and you should be eating, your body has a really great way of breaking down the muscle to make the energy you need. And so my cortisol was rising and rising, and I couldn't figure out, like, why is my blood sugar high? I've been fasting for 18 hours and my blood sugar is higher than it ever has been. Well, your cortisol increases to break down your muscle to create that glucose so that you have fuel. And so it's really important, again, to get back to the individualized piece. You might not do well with fasting. You might do well with fasting once a week, once a month, twice a week, 3 times a week, or healing your body to a place where now it can do fasting once in a while. Like when I do interviews or when I'm on tour, I never eat during the day, and that's fine. But I can't make that a general thing every single day. You kind of just have to listen to your body. So yes, keto can be detrimental to your adrenals, just like any eating style could be if you're not listening to your body and not
eating all sugar all day. That's kind of detrimental.
Exactly. So it's really about finding that balance. And if you're not eating enough, then you're not eating enough volume, enough nutrients to support your body. And of course, your cortisol is going to become raised after that. But where keto is really helpful in the adrenals is with the insulin regulation. So we've chatted about how if you're eating carbohydrates, even quote unquote the healthy carbohydrates like sweet potato, medjool dates, apples, berries, you're still increasing your insulin requirements. And for some people that are metabolically damaged or have hormone dysregulation, it's just too much right now. And that doesn't mean that it won't change. In fact, the keto that I started practicing 5 years ago is completely different than the keto that I was practicing 2 years, 3 years, and now into 5 years, because your body's always adjusting. So some things you can do on a high fat, low carb diet to support your adrenals are going to be things like meditation. And if you're like, I'm not doing that, download the app Calm. It's free. It's easy. It takes 5 minutes. They'll teach you all that you need to know. And even just setting up that quiet time that you have for yourself, like we're talking 5 minutes in a 24-hour day. Like no excuses, just meditate. Exactly. And proper sleep hygiene. Like don't bring your phone into your bedroom. Don't have a TV in your bedroom. Set up a nice quiet activity before bed, like playing a board game with your family or reading a book, drinking tea. Maybe don't watch the stressful news or your favorite Netflix show with all the things happening, because that can be really stimulating to the adrenals. And another piece to keto specifically in adrenals is you see a lot in the keto space of like, don't worry about it. Just drink fatty coffee, have a fat bomb. And normally those things have caffeine and chocolate, which if you're drinking that much caffeine, like 3 to 4 cups a day of this fatty coffee, and it has all that caffeine, that's not very good for your adrenals either. So it's really about just balancing it out and finding the gray area that your body's best in.
Okay, sounds good. So you mentioned PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, again, and you're saying keto can help that too, so that women that are tuning in and listening that.
Yeah, exactly. Because the main thing with PCOS is the insulin issue. And we know that it's mostly metabolic based and why these women deal with PCOS. So if we can eliminate the need for our body to constantly have to use insulin and become insulin resistant because there's just so much insulin and the cells aren't listening, if we can eliminate that need, lower our carbohydrates so that our body doesn't require as much insulin, then our bodies have time to heal. And a lot of keto foods are generally supportive of balancing out our progesterone and our testosterone, like nuts and mint and flaxseed, and also the cholesterol piece of balancing that out. So the insulin piece is so important with PCOS.
Okay. So let's chat about your new program. I call it new because you're always adding great new things to it. And it's called the Happy Keto Body program. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so Happy Keto Body was a program that I developed last year in 2018. It launched in April and again in August. And we opened it up for registration for a short period of time, close it back down, take students through it, look at the program, what worked, what didn't, let's adjust things. What are women wanting right now? What are the studies saying? Let's adjust things. I mean, research is constantly changing. So we're constantly having to go through and adjust things as research evolves. And I wanted to develop a program that not only taught women about keto and how to adjust keto for their bodies, but also empowered them to take their health into their own hands and be able to ask the tough questions and be their own advocate. So they didn't always have to go to the next program and the next program after that and the next program after that, just seeking for the answers outside of themselves.
Or
and
the
so
next doctor and the next doctor and the next doctor. Because, in the beginning, when you talked about all the different symptoms of hormones, like I just could imagine women going, yep, gone to this doctor, as you said, aging, this change of life, blah, blah, blah. Guess what? You don't have to hear that.
Yeah, and you don't. And you can stand up to your doctor and say, no, this is what I'm experiencing. This is why I need to get this test, or I need to get this support. And it empowers you to take out of I like to say, I don't like outsourcing my health and my body to other people. And you'll never, ever, ever, ever find anyone on this planet that will care more about your body than you will. And if you don't have a body, you don't have a life. Right. You don't have your friends. You don't have the fun things that you do. Your body is the thing that allows you to experience this amazing life. And so it's so important that we take our health into our own hands and really empower ourselves to understand this stuff. Now, it doesn't have to be super geeky. We definitely get into that. And that's why I wanted to develop the program with a doctor, so people can follow my path, which is beginner, this is how you do this, and this is how you empower yourself with that. Or you can go really deep into it with Dr. Nina Lewis-Larson, who's a naturopath and physician in Calgary, Alberta. And we go through a bunch of videos with her on how to eat right for your genes. If you've gotten your DNA tested, you can look at certain genes and follow along with, maybe you have the gene that makes it really challenging to process saturated fat. How do you deal with that on a ketogenic diet? Should you be on a ketogenic diet? And how do you adjust these things? And so that's kind of the driving force behind Happy Keto Body, and really developing a program that I knew that women needed, that I needed when I first got started. And my favorite part to it is the VIP coaching calls, where as a VIP, not only do you get support throughout the 12 weeks, but you get support lifetime. So if you're dealing with a problem next year, you just jump onto a live coaching session with Dr. Nina, a registered dietitian, or myself, and chat with the team about what's going on and get the support that you need. And I think that that's so invaluable, because it's always just, oh, but what about this and what about that? Just a small question, and just that little bit of support can be so helpful to your overall process.
And I think you're right. So many people buy programs or do programs, and they do them, or they're halfway through, and then they have questions that pertain to them, and there's nowhere. Yeah. So I'm so glad that, there's not only you, because you are such a resource and you've done it, but you've got a doctor there too, right? So you've got both.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And it also, I think the most amazing thing with any online program or just any healthcare team is, one, that they work together, because there's nothing worse than going to the naturopath who doesn't know what the doctor's doing, that doesn't know what the nutritionist is doing, and you're trying to communicate, but also that they don't agree. Some of the things that Dr. Nina says, I'm like, ooh, I would do that differently. And some of the things that Allie Miller says, who's the registered dietitian, I'm like, ooh, I would do that differently. And so we all have a slightly different way of approaching a similar situation. And that is awesome, because then you have 3 different viewpoints of ooh, actually, I think I'm going to go with this because it feels more in line. But I understand why this happened. And you can start to process this with a team that works together. So I think that it's such a unique opportunity.
And what can I just say, what's some of the feedback that you've gotten? Because as you said, you've run it a couple of times. So maybe just share a couple of testimonials or something that really resonates, so that women really feel you know what, I'm going to invest. I'm going to invest the time. I'm going to invest the money. But wow, this is really going to make a difference in my life. And as you said, how I feel and how I can explain it to friends or family, or not even have to do that. Have a community that you can be with that supports you in your...
Yeah, I think most of the women end up getting the VIP membership. Now, it is a limited time, so it's always shoot, I missed it, so I'm just going to get the basic level and I'll upgrade later. But I think what they're most surprised about is the ongoing support of past the 12 weeks. I was most happy about the fact that I could just jump on a group coaching call. And I think another surprise that they didn't expect is how supportive other women were. And a lot of these programs and things offer Facebook groups, which can be helpful, but I feel like there's this stigma around Facebook of other people are watching, and what if my friends see this? And so we've taken the forum out of that, and it's an app that you can download on your phone, and it's private, and it's just us. And just being able to be open and honest and be supported by other women they find is really helpful. And then other people really love the expert interviews where we brought in other women in the space. My mom is in one of the videos talking about the experience of aging, and she's been working with women transitioning from how you feel in your 40s to how you feel in your 60s, and how that entire process, just like your entire life changes, and how to deal with that. And it's completely different. Like all your goals and aspirations, and just you're a new human, and just how to deal with the emotions around that. I think a lot of women didn't realize how much they had been struggling with that. And when they watched that video, they were like, first, your mom is the cutest thing ever. And also, I had no idea that this is what I was experiencing. But when you put it into words, it's been so nourishing for me. So I think what surprised me the most is I really thought that women that would be interested in Happy Keto Body would be like the 20, 30 somethings.
Right, because I was going to say, you're young, and so somebody maybe that's watching it that's my age, that's 50-ish, is going to say, well, she's mid-30s.
How could she know? Yeah. So most women are between the ages of 45 and 65. And I thought that was so interesting. So it's been really great to work with women that are at that place in their lives, and really educating them on how powerful hormones are, and how we can set up their body specifically during this time, and perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, to really support themselves and build up that lifestyle, and ask themselves questions like, what do I want out of life, and how can I design my life the way that I want? And so that's definitely been the biggest surprise for me. But those are just some, like, I have actual testimonials, but that was kind of like, I just pulled them up and was like, what are people saying? And I think too, just having that open conversation of like, hey, Leanne, this thing, I would like to learn more about this. And I'm like, on it. And then we just make it happen. So it's been really nice to have that feedback from our members, just telling us what they need.
Yeah. And I'm hearing, like, I really think the VIP is the way to go. Because as you say, then you've got that support continuing, because things change, right? And I think there's nothing worse than, this has come up, help,
what do I do?
That's great. So when does it open?
Yeah, it opens for registration on January 10th. It closes on the 17th. And I think Shirley, you're going to provide a link for people to follow along to check it out.
Yeah, I am. So thank you so much. I know you're crazy busy doing interviews and you're enjoying the sun. Good for you. I'm glad you're doing both at the same time. I love it.
Yeah, so important.
I want your life.
Thank you so much for having me.
Here. Yeah, and we'll chat soon. I'm sure we will.
I would love that very much. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.